The wind was howling down 47th Street, swirling dead leaves and plastic bags around the feet of pedestrians too busy to care. But amid the clamor of downtown Chicago, someone, stood out. A frail, shivering boy huddled next to a lamppost, his face smeared with city grime, his hands cupped around a styrofoam cup of cold coffee. His clothes didn't fit, his shoes were split, and his eyes, those eyes, held something ancient. And yet, that same boy would soon say 5 words that would shatter one man's world. "Your daughter is still alive." The man he would say it to wasn't just anyone. He was Everett Langston, the name behind half the skyline, the face on Forbes magazine 3 years running. Billionaire. Visionary. Ruthless empire builder. But to those who truly knew him, he was something else, a broken father hiding behind glass towers and gilded charity balls. Everett hadn't smiled in nearly 6 years. Not since his only child, Autumn, vanished without a trace during a spring break trip to Denver. She was 17. Too young to disappear, too loved to just fade. The official story was a kidnapping gone wrong, her body never recovered, her case eventually declared cold. But Everett never believed she was dead. He just stopped hoping. That was, until the night he saw the boy. It began like any other late meeting at Langston Global's flagship tower. A quarterly boardroom brawl over projections and public relations. Everett barely listened anymore. The longer he stayed in business, the less human he felt. When the meeting finally adjourned near midnight, he decided to take the long way out, through the back alley. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe fate. But there, under a flickering security light, the boy stood, trying to hide behind a dumpster. Their eyes met for just a second. "You need something?" Everett asked, reaching for the wallet in his coat. He was used to beggars. Most people in his position learned to brush them off like dust. But something about this one froze him in place. "No, sir," the boy said, voice trembling. I don't want money." Everett paused. The boy stepped forward, looking terrified and determined. "I know something. About your daughter." Everett's heart thudded so loud it drowned out the city's noise. "What did you say?" "Autumn." "Langston," the boy said, almost whispering. "She's not dead." The billionaire's body went still, as if the world had tilted sideways. "Who are you?" "My name's Jaden. I ain't nobody important. But I saw her. I talked to her. 2 weeks ago. I swear on my life." The boy's face was wet now, from cold or tears or both. Everett's mind raced. Another scam. Another cruel hoax. He'd had dozens over the years, fake psychics, ransom demands, anonymous tips from attention seekers. But this was different. Jaden didn't ask for anything. He was shaking so badly Everett thought he might collapse. "Come with me," Everett said, his voice suddenly dry. "You're not staying out here tonight." Jaden hesitated. "I can't go in your car, mister. People like me don't come back from rides like that." "I'm not going to hurt you," Everett said quietly. "But if you know something about my daughter, you're coming with me." Jaden finally nodded. In the warmth of Everett's private SUV, Jaden spoke in broken pieces, each one more unbelievable than the last. He said he'd been staying at a rundown shelter near Calumet Park when he met a young woman named Amy, who helped serve food on Sundays. She was quiet, kind, and had a scar above her left eyebrow, just like Autumn had after falling off her bike at age 8. "She don't tell no one her real name," Jaden said. "But she dropped her ID once. I saw the name Autumn Langston on it. She panicked. Told me to forget I saw it. Said she couldn't go back to who she was before. But I didn't forget. I couldn't." Everett gripped the leather armrest until his knuckles turned white. "Where is she now?" Jaden shook his head. "I don't know. She left the shelter last week." Didn't say where. Just said she was scared. Everett's thoughts were a hurricane. The idea was impossible. Implausible. And yet. He took Jaden to one of his downtown penthouses and gave him clean clothes, a hot meal, and his own room. The boy didn't stop shaking for hours. He was 13, maybe 14, though life had aged his face far beyond that. He'd been on the streets since he was 8, after his mother overdosed and CPS lost track of him in the system. "You don't trust nobody when you live like I do," Jaden said quietly that night. But she was different. She looked at me like I was somebody. Everett didn't sleep. He stared out the window for hours, replaying every word Jaden had said. Could Autumn really be alive? And if so, why hadn't she come home? The next morning, Everett did what he did best, moved mountains. He brought in private investigators, scoured shelter footage, and combed through city records. Jaden helped identify the shelter. Surveillance confirmed a woman who matched Autumn's appearance volunteering several weekends over the past year. But then the trail went cold. The woman hadn't left a number. Her listed name and ID were fakes. The staff remembered her but didn't know where she stayed. One volunteer mentioned she'd occasionally be seen near an old mechanic's shop on the south side, but no one had a last name, an address, or a phone. Everett stood in front of the cracked pavement outside that mechanic's shop 2 days later, heart pounding like he was the teenager now. Jaden stood beside him, eyes scanning the crowd like a scared cat ready to bolt. "She was right there," Jaden whispered, pointing to the corner. "Used to give that old man food. She never asked for money. Just smiled and left." They waited for hours. No sign. But a woman came by, a regular in the area, who confirmed a girl named Amy used to bring food and clothes to folks in the area. She had sad eyes, the woman said. Like she'd been through too much. Said she didn't want to be found. Everett's throat tightened. If it really was Autumn, she didn't want to come back. Why? Back at the penthouse, Everett stood at the window again, lost in a storm of guilt and confusion. Jaden walked up behind him. "You really loved her, huh?" Everett didn't turn around. "More than my own life." "Then you gotta find out why she ran," Jaden said. "'Cause I think she was running from more than just danger. I think she was running from you." Those words cut deeper than any knife. And for the first time in years, Everett Langston, a man who owned buildings, companies, even senators, felt powerless. But deep inside him, something else stirred. Not vengeance. Not pride. Hope. Real, terrifying, fragile hope. Everett didn't tell his staff where he was going the next morning. He left his phone behind, threw on a hoodie and jeans he hadn't worn in years, and took his old Ford Explorer instead of his armored black Range Rover. No chauffeur. No assistant. Just him and a crumpled printout of security footage showing Autumn, disguised as Amy, walking out of the shelter's back door into the cold March air. Jaden was already awake when Everett came to get him. The boy sat at the breakfast table with a half-eaten cinnamon roll in front of him and a book, an old library copy of The Outsiders, clutched in his hands. He looked up, startled. "We're going to find her," Everett said simply. "I need you to come with me." Jaden blinked, cautious. "You sure that's a good idea? Some places we gotta go, you might not be welcome." Everett gave a faint smile. "I built half this city, Jaden. It's time I finally walked through the other half." The day took them deep into corners of Chicago Everett had only seen from behind tinted glass. Abandoned rail yards, crumbling housing projects, dim soup kitchens that smelled of mildew and lost stories. Everywhere they went, Jaden asked questions, nodded at people he knew, traded food or favors for information. And it worked. By dusk, they found a woman named Yolanda who had lived in an abandoned church with Amy for 3 months the previous year. She was scared all the time, Yolanda said, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup. Had nightmares. Said she didn't trust no men, not even her daddy. Said she used to live in some big glass house but it wasn't a home. It was a cage. Everett's heart clenched. Did she ever say why she left? He asked, voice strained. Yolanda shrugged. Didn't talk much. But once, she cried in her sleep and said a name. Nick. Over and over. Then she'd wake up screaming. Everett's chest tightened at the mention. Nick Harmon. Autumn's ex-boyfriend. He remembered the boy, charming, cocky, and just enough danger to keep a teenage girl infatuated. After Autumn vanished, police had investigated him thoroughly. Nick claimed they broke up weeks before the trip. He had an alibi for the day she went missing. But something about it never sat right with Everett. She ever say anything about where she might go? Jaden asked softly. Yolanda nodded. Said she wanted to go where no one would look. Somewhere by water. Said it helped her breathe. It wasn't much. But it was something. Over the next 2 days, Everett and Jaden searched lakeside shelters and trailer parks on the far outskirts of the city. And then, one cold Thursday morning, they found her. She was sitting on a plastic chair outside a battered community clinic in Gary, Indiana, an hour south of Chicago. Her hair was shorter, dyed a dull brown. She wore oversized clothes that made her look smaller than she was. But Everett knew her. A father knows. Her eyes, Autumn's eyes, lifted as they stepped out of the car. She froze. The paper cup in her hand trembled. Then she stood slowly, like her legs had forgotten how. Jaden, she whispered, confused, scared. Everett didn't speak. He didn't move. He just looked at her like a man seeing light for the first time in years. Autumn turned to run. But Jaden stepped in her path. Wait, he said, gently. He's not here to hurt you. He's been looking everywhere. Not to take you away. Just to know the truth. Autumn's voice cracked. He doesn't get to know the truth. Everett took one step forward. You're right, he said. I don't deserve it. But I'm begging you, please. Let me understand. Autumn stared at him for a long time. Then finally, she sat back down on the plastic chair. Jaden sat beside her. Everett waited. It took her a while, but then she began to speak. Slowly. As if the words weighed more than she could bear. I ran because I was scared. Not of you. Of what I'd become if I stayed. After Mom died, you shut down. You stopped seeing me. Everything was about your name, your empire, your image. Nick was the only person who made me feel seen, at first. Her voice faltered. But then he started changing. He was controlling. Jealous. And on that trip, he hurt me. I was going to call the police. But he said no one would believe me. That I'd ruin your name if I made it public. Everett's face went pale. I couldn't go back, she whispered. I felt like I'd die if I walked back into that house. So I ran. I left everything. Even my name. Tears streamed silently down Everett's face. He knelt in front of her, unsure whether to touch her, hold her, or simply breathe. I'm sorry, he choked. I failed you. I didn't see the pain. I didn't listen. I don't care about the company, the money, the reputation, not anymore. I just want to know you're alive. And I want you to know that I love you. No matter what. Always. Autumn looked at him for a long time, the fight slowly leaving her shoulders. Then she reached for Jaden's hand and squeezed it. You saved me, she whispered to him. Jaden shook his head. Nah. You saved yourself. I just helped you believe you could. Everett looked between the two of them, his daughter and the boy who brought her back to life. For the first time in years, the fog of grief lifted. Not all wounds were healed. Not all questions were answered. But for once, he didn't need control. He didn't need closure. He just needed this moment. They sat there together until the sun set over the gray rooftops, three people who had been lost, finding something like home in each other. 3 months later, the world watched in awe as Everett Langston stood before a crowded auditorium, not to announce a merger, or launch a new project, but to tell the truth. "I built towers," he said into the microphone, his voice steady. "I chased power. I thought I could control life the way I controlled a boardroom. But what I lost was far more valuable than anything I ever gained, my connection to the people who mattered most." Autumn sat in the front row, no longer hidden, no longer Amy. Beside her sat Jaden, cleaned up in a navy jacket Everett had tailored for him. But the boy still wore his beat-up sneakers, by choice. "He saved me," Everett continued, nodding toward Jaden. "Not because he had money, or power, or influence, but because he had the courage to speak up when no one else would. He reminded me what it means to be human." Later that week, Everett launched the Autumn Foundation, dedicated to helping missing and runaway youth reconnect with their families. The first shelter opened in the very church where Autumn had once slept on the floor beside Yolanda. Jaden was named its first youth advisor, a title that came with more than a plaque, it came with purpose. Autumn didn't return to the spotlight. She didn't need to. Healing wasn't about going backward. It was about building something new. And day by day, she was. One evening, as Everett watched his daughter help serve dinner at the shelter's grand opening, he felt Jaden come stand beside him. "You ever think about how crazy this all was?" Jaden asked. Everett smiled. "Every single day." Jaden looked up at him, thoughtful. "Funny how the world thinks the rich have everything." Everett turned to him. "Truth is, I didn't have anything, until I met a homeless boy who reminded me what love really looks like." Jaden grinned. "Well, you're welcome." They both laughed softly. And for the first time in years, the sound didn't echo through empty marble halls. It landed in a room filled with warmth, hope, and second chances. Because sometimes, the greatest fortunes aren't found in vaults or skyscrapers. They're found in people we almost lost, and the courage it takes to bring them home. Share this story to remind someone, it's never too late to heal.